Somebody's playing something. Hi there, boys and girls. So we are doing a rare Sunday stream, and we got Woolly Ignorant, Danish Debater. Who's that Scott Duke character? Boot him. Oh my God, Gerstreams is here.
He doesn't know how to hit
mute. Gerstreams is here already?
Yeah, the neighborhood just went to hell. Like, oh shit. Oh no. Anyway. So I was on Gerstreams last night, and I was talking to what the hell is his name? He's a Catholic guy. He's got like
Alpha Centurion.
Alpha Centurion, yeah. And he decided to have a in-depth conversation with me about God, and he was drunk as shit. And it was kind of fun.
Oh yeah, that's the best kind of argumentation and talk about God is when the Christian is drunk.
Yeah, at some point he quit making sense. So anyway, I cut the shit out of my arm.
I mean, I
wow.
I got to call you out on that last statement, though.
What's that?
You said something about that he stopped making sense at some point.
Yeah, well, yeah, you think he stopped making sense from the beginning. Actually, Alpha
Centurion... because I don't know how you can stop making sense. Don't you have to start making sense to begin with to be able to stop?
He's a pretty smart guy, and he's not a fundamentalist, and he's not a nutcake, you know. So he's got a take on religion that I don't mind so much. But I was telling him I think he was offended at my anti-theism, and I was trying to explain it to him. Anyway, no, I didn't send any links out to anybody particularly, other than a scientist or two that I'm trying to bait. Anyway. I will open the channel up in a while, so don't worry. You can get in here and talk. So John, so the other day on fitness, so you know, and I said I was pushing back against you, and I forget exactly what you said about fitness, that it didn't make any sense.
Well, no, and then I said to you afterwards, I said, well, we need to talk about this because you need to educate me further, because I picked up on, as the conversation went further, I was wrong about what I was saying. But it's still in my head. There's something wrong about it that my mind won't settle on. Yes. And what I had said is that the statement that was being made by more than one person that increased fitness or decreased fitness, it didn't compute in my head, because like fitness is like an end result state. My head, like it's not, you know, like you can say like, I lifted weights for a year, and as I progressed, I increased in muscle mass, and it just doesn't, I don't know. But at any rate, so explain it to me so I understand.
Well, there's, I guess the Darwinian idea of fitness was that something was adapted to its environment, or, it fit its environment. And the problem with all of that is that you get into this teleology thing where it seems like evolution is directed in a, going in a certain direction. But the thing about fitness that you have to understand, from my point of view, from somebody who's actually working out the numbers on this stuff, is that fitness and natural selection deals with numbers and equations and laws, basically. So So fitness would be, okay, if I had two genes in a population, right? And we wanted to measure the effect of one gene over another. Okay. So we'd set one gene to 1.0, and we'd say, okay, that this one has, has the fitness effect of 1.0, and then we'd figure out how many offspring that thing had per generation, right? And then I would set my other gene, which was more advantageous, to 1.2. And then you run it along, you run the population along for 100 generations, and you'll find out that the gene that was set at 1.2 ends up fixing in the population. So basically, you could say that the population overall had an increased fitness, but then that's kind of the main thing is that
I see where my disconnect is, okay, is when you talk about increase and decrease.
Yep.
In my mind, it was always, okay, so the organism adapts to its environment, and if it doesn't, it dies out. Okay, so that's what I'm saying is like how like to me, now it makes it sound like it's these steps that
okay,
like it takes to adapt to its environment instead of the fact that the end result organism was because of the effects of the environment.
Yeah.
You know,
So
I don't know if that's making any sense.
The only way that adaptation to an environment makes sense is if you had a fixed environment that's stuck around, like the Lenski experiment, right? They keep the same environment generation after generation after generation, and they're going to have increased fitness within that environment for some populations, but not all. So I don't.
Real quick question. That environment, was there citrate in each of the environments?
They had citrate as a stabilizing agent, basically.
But then they mutated to be able to consume it.
Right, because
Okay,
they ran out of glucose, right?
So
That's
point of order. Did I stupid Andrew right out of the room, or what did I do?
I don't know where Andrew went. He was here, and then
Andrew, come back, Andrew. We need you.
Hopefully.
We miss
It's
you.
like I was talking there, and then he came in, and then immediately left, and I'm like, "Yep, I stupided him right out of the room."
Yeah. So anyway, fitness is you got to think of it in terms of mathematics, like and it's not going to happen right away. I mean, something does not adapt to its environment. The environment adapts the species. The environment's going to determine what survives and what doesn't survive based on an interaction. So it's kind of a two-way street. It comes from the organism and from the environment at the same time, right? And there's going to be this overall change in the because things reproduce, and they don't just reproduce, they multiply. Like bacteria will multiply. You have 1 divide to 2 divide to 4 divide to 8 divide to 16, and very, very quickly it will multiply. But every time it reproduces, there's a little bit of a chance variation, because reproduction is never perfect. If reproduction were perfect, then nothing would evolve, right? I mean, if it made an exact copy of itself, then there wouldn't be any evolution at all. There wouldn't be any change in that population. Okay, and so you've got to look at all of these effects and imagine, and you've got to think in terms of populations. There's nothing in an organism that's going to make it adapt to an environment. There are things in an organism that might cause it to hypermutate, but then that will kill it unless you have like millions of them, right? Because you got all these different mutations popping up, and you'd better have a pretty big population or you're going to die. But the way to think about fitness is as a number. It's reproductive success over and above some other member of that population. And over time, over generations, you're going to see that reproductive success start to show up more often, the ones that reproduce the most. It's real simple mathematics. If you take something and you multiply it by 2, okay, over and over again, and you have something else that you're multiplying by 2.4, well, the one you multiply by 2.4 is going to become more and more common. Now, and the other thing about populations is that they can't like infinitely be fruitful and keep multiplying, right? They have every environment is going to have a certain amount of organisms that it can support. So that is why the ones that are less fit are not going to they're going to end up becoming a smaller and smaller proportion of that environment. And you're going to end up with a change. So like if, let's see, it's probably easier to explain fitness and evolution in terms of traits and their commonness. No, I don't want to talk about traits at all, because traits have nothing to do with it. Well, they do, but you don't want to think in like you could talk about a particular trait, and you could talk about how it improves the fitness of a population. But overall, what every genome is like a shuffling, a copying, with some slight changes, right? And those slight changes, one or two of those changes may have an effect on how much that organism reproduces in a population. And that number, because it's bigger than the other numbers, is going to end up fixing in a population over time. And that's the way to think about it. And when you start thinking about traits, well, you've gone way further than what you need to for natural selection. And that's where the misunderstanding of Weenies and like Fodor, basically, they went right to traits.
That brings up an interesting point. Yeah, take a breath for a minute, Mike. So is that Scott had just pointed out, I hadn't noticed what the title was. I saw the picture, and it's a good thing that Speed mutes us just before he starts the intro, because they had just pointed out what the title was, and I went and looked at it, and I was like laughing out loud when he started the intro. I'm like, oh, I'm glad he muted me. I also wanted to say, yes, everybody, I'm copycatting Scott today. I've been watching him with his wonderful hats there, and then I remembered I have a few myself, and usually wear them, but
yeah,
that's right. Wear them if you got them, folks. Wear them if you got them.
Yeah. I have to cut my cowboy hat in half so my headphones fit out the top of it. Otherwise, I don't. It doesn't work.
Or you could, or just suggesting you could join the rest of us in the 21st century, and get rid of those monstrosities that are wrapped around the top of your head right now.
Yeah, those earbuds, they never stay in my ears. I don't give a shit who designed them.
That's why I got the boomer ones. I can't. Let's see, where the heck is it? Yeah.
Oh, they have glue on them. They have super glue on them?
No. It's got the little thing that goes behind your ear.
Oh, it clips behind your ear. Okay.
Like which, yeah, all the cool kids just have the ones that pop in your ear, like you're part of CTU with Jack Bauer or something. And I had those too last year, and they kept dropping out of my friggin' ears. I was like, the hell with that. I'm getting the ones that have like a little hook on them.
Yeah, I don't know about sticking shit in my ear. My mom told me not to do that long time ago. And it stuck. Anyway, so it's really, it is a very complex thing, right? And you've got adaptation, and you've got chance mutation, right? And then you have the entire history of the organism with all the environments it's ever been in. And all of these things are interplaying, and you're going to end up with a change in the population. And now some populations will change faster than others. Some will stay the same for a long time because the environment's pretty much staying the same. And they just end up having the most advantage. They have nowhere to go, basically, so they keep staying the same over and over again.
You already put it up. Sorry, I'm laughing.
Highway to hell and only a stairway to heaven says a lot about
him. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You can always count on Ox for a few
oh my God!
Interesting observations.
Ox was really cracking me up last night on Ghost Streams.
If that's his own observation, that's just great.
Yeah. So anyway, fitness is the thing. It's adaptation. Now that one is a little bit tough because you can't. It's hard to put a number on that. Very, very hard to put a number on it. Like, okay, you have a certain genome, and you have to think of it in terms of that genome is going to create a certain phenotype in a certain environment, right? And so there's like this really, really complicated map between the genome and the animal that ends up there, right? So what we do in biology is we'll pick one thing. Like we'll pick okay, say you got a fish that live in shallow water, and they
Realize
developed
you're being photobombed. Like,
photobombed.
Yeah,
By
you have a cat behind your shoulder.
I have a what?
Cat. There's
Where
a cat.
was he? Where was
Still
he?
there.
he's,
What?
oh, people were just saying in the chat that your cat's. You just looked at him like 3 times and you didn't see him.
A cat.
Oh, you know what? People,
What the fuck
You know
are you
what?
guys talking about right now?
that's not a cat. There was a cat there, maybe. I don't know. Somebody
I don't
said
see
something in chat.
Oh,
I
that
don't
looks
see
like
any.
a cat, but it's not. Oh, stupid me.
It's a pile
Oh.
of stuff.
Oh, you mean my mask hanging back there on the dumbwaiter? Okay, that.
No, you've got to. I'm just
Never
going to shut
mind.
up.
Yeah, you better shut up. I mean, basically it would be over, it looks
just
to
went
me
mute.
like over my left shoulder. There's something with 2 eyes, but that is the knobs on the dumbwaiter, which are white, and underneath it is a mask. And it's just it's a door that opens up to the dumbwaiter. So anyway, that's what that is.
You know, sorry about that, man.
Yeah, well, quite a distraction. So where the fuck was I?
Leophilia says that's a microscope, not a cat.
Yeah, this is a microscope, not a cat.
Oh, Tentaise is here.
I don't have my reading glasses on, so I'm going to use that as an excuse.
I thought I saw a putty tack.
I thought I put it at.
Putty tack. Yep, from our youth. So anyway, so Andrew, come on
Notice
back in
how
here. And,
I'm pink now because I'm embarrassed.
yeah. So Jay Bundy, the guy that was on Maddox's channel,
That's
he did a whole
hilarious
bunch.
guy.
He did a whole bunch of very interesting experiments with a program, basically. And he's got a video, which I think I linked in my last show. And he goes through and he figures out, which parts, like history, how history affects an organism. And that's really an interesting thing. There's this whole thing about if you replayed life, would it turn out the same way? Would there be human beings and primates and things like that? And Stephen Jay Gould thought no, that there wouldn't. They would replay differently every time. And the reason for that is just all bound up in this chance and history of an organism. And with the Lenski population, they've been able to start with exactly the same organisms with the same history. And then they run the experiment for a number of generations. And what you see here is these lines that diverge. Like the longer you go, the more these populations will diverge, even though they started out in exactly the same place. So that allows them to factor out the history of the organism and take a look at just what part is adaptation and what part is chance in the future, that sort of thing. But it's all very complicated. You got to think in terms of populations. I mean, I always like to think in terms of a whole bunch of beetles living out in the forest, right? And part of the forest, has a hill on it, and the hill has a certain characteristic as far as absorbing water, and that's one environment. And you go a little bit further in the forest, and you're going to end up with a swamp, and that's going to be an entirely different environment. And if you take the very same population and you spread it into those two environments, and if you isolate them for a period of time, you're going to eventually end up with a very different species. And that's how macroevolution happens. It just because they have to survive, they have to have that fitness value. They have to have at least enough fitness to reproduce, one of themselves every generation, right?
So I just want to comment that I feel so bad for Ox because he's such a great guy.
Is he?
But he seems to hinge his happiness on me. I don't know why.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah. For some reason, like, I don't know. He doesn't have his best life because he feels some kind of way when he encounters me. And
I'm really shocked because I'd never heard Ox called a good guy before. So,
well, yeah. I mean, because I've only ever encountered him in chats online, so I'm giving him a little
right.
grace there.
Anyway, I'm going to
just
open this.
assuming.
I'm opening up the room.
Oh, awesome.
And I don't know what the hell happened to Andrew.
Well, he did. He
He's
thought it
still
was a
in
one-on-one, so he dropped out. Yeah.
He what?
He thought it was a one-on-one. So
No, it ain't. No. That's why I
No, he
invited
said he
him.
was going to listen in the chat for a while. He's still there.
Yeah, he's around. He's
lurking.
listening.
Leo Phileas is in the chat.
So yeah, Leo did. Leo got John to rage quit.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Interesting. Who does that?
It's like answer the question. Why can't you answer
questions?
He got who to rage quit?
Lil Peepee.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You know,
Lil
it's so
Peepee got
funny.
butthurt.
When Scott just did that, he epitomized not only Leo Phileas, but what the fuck's the dude's name? Andy Griffith dude.
Barney Fife?
Barney Fife.
Well, yeah, but what's his name? What's his real name?
Don Knotts.
Yeah. Because when you just did that little impersonation of Leo, it sounded like Don Knotts too, which I'm always saying, Leo looks like, reminds me of Don Knotts.
Yeah, a little bit.
If Leo were a little bit more nervous natured, he would remind me a lot more of Don Knotts. But yeah.
So I grew up in this small town, and we had this sheriff, and he was like, I don't know, 60, 70 years old, and they wouldn't let him have bullets in his gun. He could carry a gun, but he couldn't have bullets. And he was exactly like Barney Fife. And we'd go out and we'd vandalize shit, or we'd get into some kind of trouble, and he'd come out there, and he was just exactly like Barney Fife. I mean, his whole presentation, right? He'd get all excited, and he'd be like, one time my brother and his friend had him racing from one side of the town to the other. I forget what the hell they were doing, but they were creating havoc, and they did it. I think they split up or something, and they got him going back and forth, and he was like going nuts. This is a crime of the century, Well,
I can't let it pass by without commenting on the way you said havoc.
Havoc.
Because I really dug that. That was really cool the way you said havoc.
Yeah. And then his name was
really. You were really hard on the awk part of it.
Havoc. Yeah. So they replaced him with another younger guy, and then that younger guy got fired because he went into the American Legion drunk on his ass and pulled his gun out, and he managed to discharge his weapon into the ceiling because he was twirling his gun. We had a great police force in Mountain Iron, Minnesota.
It's so amazing you got out alive.
Yeah. So this Phil, he would wait for my father to leave the bar and head out to the farm, and he would pull him over and threaten him with a DWI unless he showed up the next day with potatoes and carrots and vegetables, and that's how he got his produce, by pulling over drunk drivers at the edge of town.
Hey, who is this GRR guy that people are talking about?
He doesn't believe in vowels.
Ox. Well, no. Ox says, Leo, you need to go after GRR. Is that like God? Oh, grr. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I knew that.
Hi, Midnight. Good to see you.
Hello.
Seconds.
Oh, is it midnight?
Well, yes, it is.
Midnight. Just a little behind the scenes. Since Maynard's out there and probably some other folks is. Today I'm enjoying a Hell's Cherries and a Hell's Cherries haze in my
hell?
No, Speed, can I read this?
Well, as soon as I get it to position on the screen properly.
Oh, yeah.
Having a little trouble with that. I don't know why. What is going
You have
on?
purpose and destiny. What the hell?
What is going on?
Is that from Rebecca's channel or something?
No, this is from David John Wellman. Was reviewing something, video by Michael Brown.
Michael Brown.
Honest Questions for Atheists. I guess it is.
God.
Yeah.
Speaking
Honest
of Rebecca,
Christian.
speaking of Rebecca, what you guys think of what you guys think of the stream she had yesterday?
Oh, that was that's kind of why I put this up here. Do you have purpose and destiny, significance?
Okay.
I thought it was this thing about significance. Christians are so confused about what they are in the world,
So would you like me to read it?
what their significance is. Yeah, go ahead and read this one.
Do you have purpose and destiny? Second, would you say that even as an atheist, you will have a sense of purpose and destiny in your life, a feeling that you were put here for a reason and that you have a mission to accomplish? Or is it primarily people of faith who feel like this, since we are simply the products of an unguided random evolutionary process? Okay, I hate whoever wrote this.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, I mean,
This-
because here's the thing, and so it's obvious from what you just read that a Christian wrote that,
Right.
and they can't have purpose in life. Oh, pardon me. Without giving all credit to their God. But see, that's what makes non-believers superior in their way of looking at their environment around them, is because the fact of the matter is there's no purpose to life. Okay, it's you're born, you live a while, you fucking die, and a few centuries or a few thousand years from now, the whole planet will be gone. And it's like it's just.
I mean, it's a little more than 1,000 years, like 4.6,
Well,
5.6 billion years. But yeah, I get the point.
Well, the other reason I had that is since we are simply the products of an unguided random evolutionary process. Well, okay, my dad met my mom. There was nothing unguided about that. And he liked her, right? And my mom liked my dad.
You mean there was
And that's
nothing
one of the
guided
reasons why-
about it?
There's nothing unguided about it. Right?
Unguided?
Unguided. Nothing
Okay.
unguided about the process that
Okay.
got me here, right? Okay, but then you go back a few generations, and my great grandpa met my great grandma, and it's like, okay, where was the unguided part? So what the fuck are they talking about? So they're looking at evolution as if it's like rolling the dice every 5 minutes. No, that isn't what happens. It's locally guided. Long term, there's a lot of variation, but there's nothing unguided about reproduction, species, life at all. Nothing is
Also-
unguided about.
Also, you could be an atheist and not believe in God, but believe there is, conceivably believe there is destiny.
Sure.
And so destiny means I need to rule the world. And
Yeah.
therefore, whatever I do to assure that I end up ruling the world is justified. And
Right.
I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's a way of thinking that's possible, and that a lot of people have embraced in the past.
Yeah, but it isn't like species are hatched into the middle of the cosmos and somebody rolls dice and decide who's going to live and who's going to die. I mean, the whole process is extremely guided at a local level, at the local temporal level. So within the space of our lifetime, there is a lot of guidance going on. For instance, if there were no grocery stores, half of us wouldn't be here. I mean, so what are they talking about? An unguided evolutionary process? They don't quite understand how evolution works.
Which is a very common phenomenon among
Common phenomenon.
But
Okay.
fundamentalists.
And then the other thing.
Well,
I was
it's even bigger than that, though, Speed, because when they're talking about unguided processes, I'm reading in there, they're talking about the whole picture. They're talking about, it's our, if you don't have God, your life is unguided. They're not just talking about evolution.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the first part of it. And okay, so they want to pretend that they're looking to this greater purpose and this greater life, but what they're really doing is selfishly trying to say that the whole fucking universe cares about just them, right? But that doesn't work either, because the whole universe doesn't give a shit about you. But your community does, your friends do, your family does. So you got all these different hierarchies, right? And our meaning is found in our lives, in our own like our own lifetimes is where we find our meaning, right? We don't have to look to some cosmic created everything fucking magical.
Well, and that's what I was trying to elucidate earlier, trying to get to, is that it's an amazing fucking phenomenon that human beings are able to find purpose in their life.
Right.
Okay, because we're just part of this huge cosmos. We're just so insignificant, not only against the vastness of the cosmos, but against the vastness of time itself. We're so insignificant. It's crazy. I mean, and then so that we do find purpose and meaning in our lives and try and live our best lives and help our fellow human beings is an amazing thing. So don't get me wrong, the people that are Christians, the ones that are good people and don't fuck with other people, which is, I say, is the majority of them. That's kind of what they're doing, okay? But they have this like elaborate, it's got to be God, instead of just realizing how amazing it is that you can have any purpose in life and just go with that instead of, well, it's got to be like this God that gave me the purpose, and I would never have done this, that, or the other thing if it wasn't for God.
Apparently,
I mean, I was going to say that. You know what? Go ahead, Speed. Never mind.
oh, apparently this guy that he's talking about has a blog, and I'll link that in the description too. And
I mean,
this
I
is
have
where
a
this
blog.
stuff comes from. But let me just play the beginning of the stream, because he'll kind of orient us here.
Real quick though, Maynard, the answer to your question is so that you can go up there and smoke weed. Anyway.
Is that why they want to go to heaven, or what is he?
Well, no, he said, why do we have to have a purpose? I mean, what is the purpose of a mountain?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I think we got into fetuses a little bit last night and what their purpose was in heaven.
Boy, that gave me a really disgusting image.
Did it? Well, as near as I can figure, the fetuses go to heaven and they put them in little fish bowls, and then they have to toilet train them and feed them until they grow up, and they at 9 months they come out of the fish bowl and they start crawling around. Then of course they're still shitting themselves, so you have to toilet train them, and you have to give them cookies.
No, with fetuses, is it like vampires? Like they, since they died as a fetus, they go through eternity as a fetus. They're walking around as a.
Yeah, that was my question. Christians need us because we think this stuff all the way through, right? So what happens? Does it keep growing, or does it stay a fetus in the fishbowl for eternity? I don't know. Hard to say. It's like you could go see your little brother who got aborted in a fishbowl, and you would basically give him fish flakes, feed him and stuff.
Right.
It'd be like you had a pet, right? It's like, oh, that's my little brother. He didn't make it. Anyway.
He didn't make it.
He didn't make it. Well, he made it to heaven, so I guess he did make it.
Yeah, he made it to heaven. You didn't make it because you had to wait 80, 90 years.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Well, right. So that's why I've always wondered, why do Christians buy Band-Aids?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
so
you
because
just
so
bleed
because
out?
if you right, yeah, because like if you believe in life after death and that's your goal, like like say you're a Christian and heaven's your goal, and you also donate money to cancer research, isn't that kind of a conflict of interest?
Yeah, well, see, that's cheating. If you let yourself bleed out and you know you can get a bandage, then that's cheating if you get to heaven that way. That's called suicide. So they don't care for that. So they have rules. You gotta go through it. You gotta go through it one way or the other. I don't know. If you're lucky, you get aborted and you get to live in that fishbowl and have your older brother feed you fish flakes. Right? You don't have to go through any of this bullshit. Like
Man,
first
you're
grade.
gonna hear about this.
Am I?
Well,
I have questions.
like,
Well, I'm not the
you
one
know,
that fucking overturned Roe v. Wade. If they don't want to hear about this shit, if they don't want us analyzing this shit, they shouldn't have fucking done that. They shouldn't have reminded us.
I'm still flabbergasted and still don't understand how the fuck they did that because there was no case. They just said
Right.
we're going to look at this.
Yeah, we're going to review this. Yeah. Yeah, they're going to review a lot of things. Basically, we've got a branch of the government that's kind of gone off the rails, and the other two branches are supposed to pull them back in. But so far, they haven't figured out how to do that.
Yeah, one party's evil, the other one is just useless.
Yeah. I think
when you talk about the Supreme Court too, I mean, it sounds to me like it's time for the CIA to do something. If you know what I mean.
Oh, so Andrew doesn't want to come in here and fight about this. Andrew and Jason, I invited both of you to come in and fight about
Andrew
this.
said he would come in, but he has demands.
What are demands? Well,
he has not listed his demands.
I will meet your demands.
Because traits. Wait a minute, because he this is about traits. Is this what this is over?
I don't know what he's talking about. Organisms' needs. They're stochastic with respect to the organisms. Yeah, and so is the history. Like the thing that's often misunderstood about evolution is there's a mutation, right? And we might call that a neutral mutation. But is it really a neutral mutation if 1,000 generations hence it becomes part of another mutation that ends up being beneficial to that species in some environment? So you've got all of these things that are changing in your, in you right now, all these genes that don't seem to do anything. They don't have a fucking thing to do with traits at all right now. But 1,000 generations from now, it might be useful. So, I mean, that's how evolution works. There's this huge history of variation, that gets built up. And at some point, if all of these variations lock into place, they become something. It's almost like if you had a bunch of Legos around and you kept putting them together in random formations. And then 2 years from now, you're building something and you pick up a bunch of those random pieces and they just happen to be exactly what you need to do what you want to do. And so there's this time element to the whole thing where things are changing and they lock into place. Does that make sense? It isn't like, okay, the environment changes and then a mutation comes along and the organism adapts to its environment. It ain't that damn simple. It's like a lot of history happens and a lot of variation happens, and then way down the line things lock into place. So now we got a Jason here.
We have a Jason Torn.
And Jason.
Ellipsis lady is here.
So you just sat there on Rebecca's stream and you let her do this probability argument that, peptides are so improbable. And I'm just wondering why you just sat there and went along with all that.
I mean, I can't argue against everything that she says. I have to be somewhat gentle. It is her stream.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I always have to kind of be careful because I could go on there and like every single thing she says, I could say that's wrong, and you don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to say that because I mean, I respect the fact that she has atheists on her channel, and so I have to pick my battles wisely. I want to push back on certain things. So
okay.
But
anyway.
what
well, I mean, but hold on a second. But if she's willing to have atheists on her channel, and you have certain expertise in certain areas, and you're not calling her out on her errors, what's the point of her allowing atheists in the room if you're not going to take her to task?
Well, no, yeah. I mean, I think I do. I mean, but one thing I would state, like I'm a geoscientist. I'm happy to address all these issues of like the Earth is not 6,000 years old. All of those components, I'm fine talking about that. I have with the biological stuff. I mean, I push back on that with her, but I don't want to get into an in-depth biological expertise discussion because I frankly don't consider myself an expert in that area. She's had lots of folks on her channel like Dr. Dan who have walked her through the specifics of a lot of these things. So and what Speed, what did I not push back on? Like a probabilistic aspect of what?
Yeah, they were talking about basically proteins. Like, okay, you got a protein that's active in a human today, and it's 800 amino acids strung together. And what they like to do is say, oh, how probable is it for those 800 amino acids to just happen to be that way, right?
Yeah.
Well, that is not how it happened.
Yeah, of course.
There's nothing completely random about the history of that organism, going all the way back to abiogenesis, when we had very small peptides and very small RNAs, and whatever formed a cell membrane grabbed a whole bunch of wildly diverse set of different molecules and proteins, small proteins, and basically through time, those things hooked up. Now, there's something called there's a protein domain, and protein domains are like little. They'd be like the cutting part of a machine tool. They'd be the piece that does something, right?
I wish you hadn't said machine tool because it's fucking Otangelo.
That's true.
Oh,
I was thinking the same thing. So.
Oh no, it's Otangelo. He is in the side chat, isn't he? That's horrible.
I apologize. I think I summoned him from the dark.
You summoned him. Did you say his name 3 times? Anyway, so there's like domain shuffling and protein. I mean, proteins get shuffled around and cobbled together, and then just the way proteins work. It's not like a machine. It doesn't have to be this perfectly accurate configuration that does something. There's a whole lot of wiggle room in proteins.
Well, see, and the thing is the Christians are used to their genie who just snaps his fingers.
Right.
So they don't want to recognize the process. They want to say that this is the end result. Look at how wonderful it is. Forget the millions of years that it took to get to this point. Our God just made it out of thin air, like snapped his fingers. Like,
I mean, yeah, I've brought this up with these guys before using a similar kind of methodology, which is that like small changes over long periods of time can result in very structured, organized outcomes. And we know that in geology and the geosciences, although obviously that's not the only reason why things like that happen. Certainly there are catastrophic events that do occur, but this, the aspects of uniformitarianism, which I know lots of people are like, oh, uniformitarianism is not the end all be all. I agree with that. But certainly slow processes, minor processes that occur over many years can result in what we see.
And they're disregarding those processes and belittling them, by saying that it's all crap. That didn't happen. It was our God that made everything. And it's almost like they're, looking at seeing something beautiful and saying that, yes, if there's beauty or there's complexity in something, it had to be our God that did it.
Yeah, it's a common thing that I think that we battle with. I mean, it's not bad. I don't think scientists battle over it. I think that, in the scientific community, there's not a battle on those issues. It's only in these fringe areas, these fringe scientists that have these perspectives, if you want to call them scientists.
Right.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Jason? Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Summer has finally arrived in Idaho. It was very cold spring, but it's finally,
Really?
it was like kind of rainy and cold even into June, but finally when July hit and it went into the 90s, so it's finally summer's finally arrived, so it's nice.
Wait a minute.
I do want to say. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to comment real quick. Is Kathy in the chat doing a Cerberus Hex impersonation?
I saw that too.
Who?
Kathy or Kafa? I don't know how you say it.
Kafai is here?
Yeah.
Where is he?
No, Cerberus Hex said something about drugs. And I
think he was he was joking. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Satirical. Yeah.
Yep. So, and the other thing about proteins is that when you like, there's some bioinformatics you do with, like, for any particular protein, you find out what proteins it will adhere to, which proteins it will connect to. And I was trying to find you a diagram, but when you look at those diagrams, they look like they really look like a mess, because one protein will connect to or bind to hundreds of other proteins, different proteins, and these work in networks, right? And only one or two of those things end up being biochemically important, and that's where biochemists like Fuzzerana and people like Otangelo, not a biochemist, but laymen like Otangelo, they think that that this protein that binds to one protein and does something, that is just the only thing that it does. That's not the case at all. Proteins are very what the hell is the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say. I don't want to say orgy.
Just doing my job real quick. I can't let it go by without pointing out that Stephanie Trenton just posted "Comes Space." Don't know where that came from, but all right.
Comes Space.
Comes Space.
Comes. I know what comes space. Anyway, I've been there, but okay. The point. The thing is that these biochemical pathways that we map out. Okay, we think because we map them out in our heads, they become famous, right? That isn't the way molecules work. Okay, they connect to a whole lot of other things. They stick to a lot of things that don't do any good at all before they get to the one thing that does good. And overall, the cell survives. And if it doesn't survive, it wouldn't be here, right? So, I mean, they're polyamorous. What is the word I'm looking for? They're little molecules are little sluts. Okay, I guess that's the only way I can say it. I mean, they will stick to just about anything. And that's the thing that's missed. And right now, modern biology is looking at these complex networks and these complex interactions, and we're finding things out about disease, and we're finding things out about health. The two opposite ends, and we're finding that out because we're looking at all of the pathways all at once, right? They're not looking at these little diagrams that biochemists are used to looking at. That isn't how life works. Life is a mess. Anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I was having this conversation with Andrew about this combination of natural selection occurring, environmental pressures versus random mutations. And so that I was saying, look, there's a random aspect to mutations. And so I guess you could say they're not truly random. That
right. I understand I was being a bit pedantic there, but like I just want to make that point because it's certain fields of biology that does come into play. For example, in phylogenetics, that is actually a really important point that you can use to actually build these family trees. So it's not a non-negligible thing there, or it's not negligible thing. You get what I'm saying?
I do. Like you could say that it's not truly random, but from a higher level, we could say that there is a large facet of randomness involved. But that is the beauty of this system, where we have one system where we have these random mutations that are mutating. Technically, not really. They have no knowledge of like what's going on with the environmental systems.
And I think that's the true sense in which mutations are or can be considered random, is that they don't happen because the organism wills itself to mutate, or
that's
it needs something. So that's the way I use the word stochastic in that sense. That mutations are random or stochastic in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's for me, from the aspect of like population genetics and natural selection and random mutations, that's the beauty of natural selection, is that you have these two things occurring and they just happen to work together to result in certain mutations being passed along through a population, which results in the diversity of life that we see. And I think that when religious individuals talk about, look at the trees, look at how beautiful things are, and they anthropomorphize that to God, I think it does a disservice to the beauty and amazingness of those naturalistic processes.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying a few moments ago. Hey, real quick, Speed. You forgot to take away Otangelo's temporary wrench.
Oh, but check again. And you'll find out that Carol the Atheist and Deconverted Man have wrenches, and Otangelo doesn't. Yeah.
Otangelo said...
He just read the chat.
I fixed it. I fixed it.
No, you're the one. Well, wait a minute. You're the one who's always saying, I never pay attention to chat.
I'm actually reading. I tried to pay attention. I don't pay close enough attention to chat. I really try to watch. It's it depends on what we're doing. But anyway, so the other really important thing.
I think Jason was going to say something.
I was just going to say, Otangelo says Jason making claims out of his expertise. I'm not making any claims. I mean, what I just stated is a very high level perspective or understandings of natural selection. So I don't think anybody disagrees with what I said, was that the mutations are typically random, that we have a natural selection process that works in combination with those mutations that result in certain mutations being passed along. I mean, this is like basic biology.
If you had been talking about the fact that human beings breathe oxygen, and he said, "Oh, you're talking outside your expertise," that's kind of like what he was doing. So
Otangelo is just mad that he does a whole lot of very motivated and biased reading, and you have a PhD and you have talked about credentials before, because really Otangelo's not credentialed and he gets things so wrong. You have to go back and double check his shit all the time. And so, yeah.
And I was the first when I came on here and Speed asked me about like calling out Rebecca, what did I say? I said, wait, I just want to make it clear. I'm not a biologist. I'm not going to make any claims around that topic. I'm happy to talk about in the area of my expertise. And the thing I just mentioned is I'm not making any claims. This is like what you would learn in like high school biology. But on the other hand, Otangelo is the one that likes to make these claims that are antithetical to the consensus of science, but he doesn't have any background in those areas. So talk about the pot calling the kettle black. He's saying I'm the one making claims out of my expertise when that's all he does.
Hey, can you share Maynard's last comment?
Okay, Otangelo's comment to that is priceless. It just cracked me up.
Okay, now
Maynard said that how did the White Cliffs of Dover form?
Otangelo's response to that. Genesis 1.
Oh, that's how they formed.
That's
Okay.
a perfectly reasonable answer, Otangelo.
Oh, perfectly reasonable. Yeah, God just plunked him there. He plunked him down.
Right.
Yeah, he killed a whole bunch of.
Or worse, from AIG or something, that they had these trillions of plankton in the oceans, and they suddenly all died and fell to the seafloor and formed these thick, like really thick layers of limestone and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, we got somebody called Anal Leakage who's joined, and we
I think
also
that's
have
an alternate account
Anal
for us, maybe.
leakage.
I don't know.
That's a great name. That's funny.
But there's another one up here that I spotted. Shit, he's way up here. So the chat, fellow
All right.
phalangocentric supremacy.
I just saw a comment that might trigger you, Jason.
No, let me read it. Otangelo
Okay,
says, and it might trigger speed too. So whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one does not need to have a PhD to have expertise on anything. It should be expertise in anything. Just as a note, just reading of science papers and books helps. I don't disagree with that. You don't need a PhD to be an expert in a particular topic. However, there is a high correlation between having a terminal degree and having expertise and knowledge in a particular area.
Right.
You're not precluded from having expertise in
Right.
that area, but it just goes. It stands to reason that
It
if you're
helps.
somebody, yeah, it helps if you have a formal education in a particular area and you've studied under other people in those areas. Then the likelihood of you actually understanding those topics is higher. But guess what? There are a lot of people who have zero background who think they know everything, like Otangelo,
Right.
and that's the problem. Is that this Dunning-Kruger effect of people that
That's right.
think they have
Angelo
knowledge.
thinks he's an expert because he's read some web pages and
Yeah, you
maybe
see
a
the
book.
the problem.
Here's what his problem is, real quick, is that he's reading. He does all this reading he's talking about, and I don't doubt that. And he has his little cat's board, but when he gets to a certain point where he doesn't understand something, instead of reaching out to somebody like Speed or you, Jason,
Or a
and
scientist.
trying to understand, he fills in the blanks, and then he says, well, this particular bit of science points to what I'm trying to say. Is it points to my God? He gets off the rails and
Yeah, there's a really big difference. Okay, I just want to comment that one thing a PhD is really good for is if you want to make a lot of money at Answers in Genesis, they love hiring PhDs. By the way, if you have a PhD, yeah, you could do that. But here's the other thing.
I was just ranting at this point, to be honest.
Okay, now if you want to become expert at something, you have to first of all not have any preformed conclusions about what you're going to figure out, and then you have to work your ass off studying the subject. You don't just read a few papers and cherry pick a few quotes. Okay,
can you share his last comment, Otangelo's last comment?
And you don't direct it towards something that you already believe because you read the fucking Bible.
I mean, but wait a second. So for some reason, Otangelo just can't understand what I'm saying. Listen very carefully, Otangelo. I'm not making any claims that I'm a biologist or have expertise at a high level in these areas. I'm not saying that. And I'm not providing any controversial positions on biology. But what I am saying is that given the fact that I do have a terminal degree, I do have an understanding from a larger perspective of what it takes to understand science and scientific concepts and the ways that we learn those things. And guess what? You don't have that background. So when Otangelo, when you say things like, oh, Speed and Jason think they know everything about biology, I don't think either of us are saying that. But we do recognize that there is a set of experts in those fields that have extensive understanding about those topics, and that you're not one of them. So stop trying to make claims that you understand biology and that I don't. I'm not making that claim. You're making the claim that you understand all this stuff when you don't have any background in that area.
Right.
That's my point.
Well, I typically like to think of it as the more, like you said, controversial or unparsimonious the claim, the higher the background you tend to or should have if you're making that claim.
Okay, so Danny, you can use your Danny thing You don't have to come on as all these sock puppets. That
Why?
you're
Oh,
coming
is he anal leakage?
I
I
thought
think
those were
he's
all
most of
ox
those.
alts.
I thought that was ox. Yeah.
Oh,
So maybe
not
some of them are Danny.
I don't know, some
Here's
might be
Drace. Hey,
Danny.
Drace, how's it going?
Hey, Drace.
Yep.
Sorry, we might have triggered Drace, but all this expert talk.
But
Okay.
okay.
How you doing, man?
Yeah. Hey, Trace.
What up, though? I'll start contributing to this in just a second, but I want to get off the. I'm walking right now, and I'm on the main road. I don't want to have all the.
Yeah, your mic is kind of muffled.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a little bit. It kind of sounds like you're walking and talking on a phone.
I think that's exactly what it's doing.
Yep.
Oh well.
Anyway, so on the thing about randomness, okay, so it isn't just like completely random. There's something that exists, and there are very small changes that happen. So it isn't completely rethrowing the dice every time. That's
Right.
one thing. And the other thing is that these random things accumulate over time, over a long history. And there's when a beneficial mutation happens, like what they're proving in the Lenski experiment, what they're really detailing very well is when something happens in a current generation, it's because it went back like hundreds of generations in the past. And that's where the stuff started. So if they go back and they start like 20 generations ago, the thing won't work again, basically. They have to go like all the way back to the beginning and reshuffle everything. And there's just all kinds of complications. And you can't just think about random, and you can't think in terms of things adapting. I mean, you have to put all these things together, all these ingredients together, and start to get a really good feel for what's really happening.
Well, I
And
think
it's
that
complicated.
Dr. Dan said this the other day in one of his recent videos, was basically what creationists typically like to do is take mutations by themselves and natural selection by itself and genetic drift by itself and forget that they're all kind of working in play with one another.
Right. Yeah, and I think Jay Bundy made that point too at some point in one of his videos that basically you can't just pick one of these things. There's this complicated interplay. And the other interesting thing is I think some species end up simplifying over time. And I think that simplification makes them more susceptible to extinction. Because, I mean, if you have a complex, a very, very large field, it's going to be more likely to be adaptable than these species. Like the Lenski
in certain situations, yeah.
And the Lenski experiment, one of the things that they do that you got to be careful about making judgments on is they use the same environment over and over and over again. So they're not modifying the environment as they go along. They're holding the environment relatively fixed. And
so if I'm here for anything, it's to derail your smart talk and just point out that
good.
Cerberus, I don't know what is Callan's raging boner.
I don't know what is going on in chat.
I mean, I don't know if I think that's like somebody's screen name or something. He was
asking it is.
Ox he was asking Ox if that was him.
No, the Kellen's raging boner that came up. Like this is a person that like trolls streams or something occasionally, and I don't know. I heard about it a couple years ago. I don't know what it is, but anyway, somebody should explain it to us. That would be cool.
Hey Jason, just real quick, you mentioned you have an expertise in the geosciences earlier. Does that include like sedimentology or anything related to that at all, or different areas than that?
Yeah, my master's was in surficial processes and sedimentology, so it was mostly on surficial water flow related to freshwater estuaries and sedimentology, sedimentological depositions. So,
well, maybe in this chat or after we go backstage, I'd like to maybe pick your brain on a few questions I have related to that subject, if that's okay.
You could ask them now.
Oh, I don't want to derail the topic.
That's fine.
We've been derailed for a long time, Andrew. Where have you been?
I've been on a week-long trip so far, so I have no idea what's been going on.
That's right.
Oh, so Andrew,
you're on a week-long. Where you been? Where are you?
Oh, I'm back now, but I just the last few days I was at Colorado, South Dakota, that kind of neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a great place to go for like field seminars, like geological field seminars. That's where,
some of the outcrops there were just breathtaking.
Yeah. That's a great area to if like lots of undergraduate field classes go to those areas. So it's I think we were like in Utah for the ones that we went from my master's degree. So,
but don't you know, Jason, all of that was created in one single catastrophic event.
I know. I got to go back to school to learn that one.
Well, did you find
so he said he wanted to ask him some questions, and I was wondering because he had mentioned at the beginning when he first got here about the 6,000-year-old. Like, so what are some of the why is the Earth not 6,000 years old?
Oh shit.
Oh my God.
Let me count the ways.
Look at that. Throw that. I mean, just please talk about that for a few minutes. Because it's just such a crazy claim.
Okay, prepare yourselves, everyone. Me and Jason are gonna nerd out about some geology.
Jason, before you get into that overall, okay, I've noticed that creationists only talk about the Grand Canyon, and they only talk about that vast inland sea, and the sediment layers there, right? And then, like, I live in Minnesota, and we don't have any of that shit over here at all. I cannot find the Tapete sandstone in Minnesota. Oh, yeah. And this idea that the geologic column was laid out by the flood and it's the same everywhere, we need to talk about that. Right.
I mean, maybe it could have been, or maybe it was, but were a lot of counteracting forces that.
No, it couldn't have been. It couldn't have been the same everywhere. It just would not have happened that way.
Okay.
I mean, you didn't have the same sedimentation going on in Africa that you had going on, and anyway. But okay.
So anyway, I'm Kent Hovind, and I'm saying to you, tell me why the Earth isn't 6,000 years old.
Yeah, tell us why,
Mr. Smart Guys.
Yeah, and Andrew, go ahead and ask your questions.
Can I also suggest a line of response, Jason? We had, was it Maynard Saves? I'm not sure who it was who talked about the
White Cliffs of Dover.
Yeah, the White Cliffs of Dover and limestone. Now, my understanding is limestone only comes from still not very deep waters, and
typically
it's a sedimentation. So, explain why the White Cliffs of Dover can't be just 6,000 years old.
And every time you say the word water, please say it like Kent Hovind.
Water. You got all that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can get limestone through chemical formations as well. You can have chemical formations, or you can have formations that are as a result of the skeletal remains of animals. So typically microscopic animals like foraminifera, so they're tiny little skeletal bodies will, in the ocean, they die, they fall to the bottom of the ocean, and they start to collect, and that happens over many years, made up of calcium carbonate. So we know that the mechanisms for formations of limestone take a very specific amount of temperature and pressure and salinity, and and it has to be kind of in a Goldilocks zone. It can't be too warm, can't be too cold, and it also takes a long period of time for those to accrue. And we know that not just biochemically, We know that just kind of from a depositional standpoint, that like like looking at the depositions, looking at those layers, and getting a sense of that of the time that it takes. Like in the late, I think it's like the late Cretaceous is when some of the chalk cliffs that formed in England were formed. That those take an extensive period of time to form.
Well,
and
sorry,
no, please.
Fun fact, the Cretaceous, I think, is actually its name comes from something related to chalk, I believe, because it was such a huge period of chalk formation, as I understand it.
There's like what's called the Beachy Head formation or Beachy Head cliffs, where I think that's the late Cretaceous.
Right.
But certainly, like the one person that has actually talked about this pretty extensively, which I was impressed with, I thought that she presented a lot of good information, was Gutsy Gibbon.
Yep.
She presented a lot of good information from very specific papers on the formations of limestone and what does it take from a chemical standpoint and like a kind of an environmental standpoint of like how warm, and actually shows the curves of like at a certain like you kind of have a peak of temperatures of like 85, 90 degrees, but after that it really tails off. So I think the typical argument, like from folks like David McQueen and others, is like when you say like, how can we have the formation of like hundreds of feet of things like chalk that are typically formed from coccoliths and foraminifera, etc. How can that have happened rapidly? And so they don't really have a good answer for that. The only answer is everything is sped up in time,
right?
In the past. That the mechanisms that we see now did not occur at the speeds that we see now. They occurred at a much more rapid pace.
Similar to radioactive decay, basically.
Correct. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
For it to happen in 1 year, the ocean would have to be like soup, just filled with these coccoliths, right? And
I think their view of the past is like a Benny Hill comedy montage.
Yeah,
everything going at fast speed.
The paper to look at is Opdyke and Wilkinson, I believe. Opdyke and Wilkinson, 1993, is the paper that Gutsy Gibbon has referenced before, which is pretty much the seminal paper on limestone formations. And talks about like
Opdyke?
Opdyke, Opdyke, Opdyke.
Gutsy Gibbon has had interviews on her channel with lots of really interesting geologists on not just limestone but other things. So I would suggest anybody go back through Gutsy Gibbon's videos and find anything having to do with geology and watch it. I guarantee you you'll find something interesting.
So that's from 1989, Opdyke and Paleolatitude distribution of Phanerozoic marine ooids and cements. That one?
Well, I thought it was 1993, maybe, but is it Opdyke and Wilkinson?
Yep, they might have a few. I'll go look at Google Scholar and see what I can find.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was 93, but the point that I was going to say to Amcon is that the real arguments around that are that we have a multitude of systems that have been investigated by hundreds of scientists separately. So, like, I actually have a presentation on this that I gave to these guys. Let me go back to this one slide. I'll just run through a list of items: plate tectonics, radiometric dating, glaciology, dendrochronology, ice and sediment core analysis, sequence stratigraphy, carbonates, paleogeography, reformation. All of these are research areas where people have studied like the formations of reefs, the glaciology, like how glaciers are formed and the time it takes for them to form. Radiometric dating, how do we date certain components and why radiometric dating is accurate. They've all done these separately. And guess what? They all agree. They all point to a common 4.54, et cetera. Or not, I wouldn't say this specifically, but they point to an old Earth.
An old Earth, yeah. And I think that's just scratching the surface, because I also want to mention these layers, I believe, from glacial lake deposits called varves, and I'm sure you've heard them,
Definitely.
Jason. Basically, for the audience, there are these extremely fine layers that form annually, seasonally, and it's just impossible to get those in this catastrophic turbulent flood. Now, I know creationists have proposed different mechanisms for that, but they kind of all fail, because you have these clastic sediments in them, you have some organic material in them. It's basically among that, and also you have these, like you said, sequences where clearly the environment changed over time. Like you get shale, and then some limestone, and then some sandstone, and then the reverse on top of that, and then the reverse, and so on and so forth, where you clearly see these sea levels rising and then falling again and again over time. And how do you get that in the global flood if this didn't take vast periods of time to deposit these different sediments?
Yeah, I mean, and I would also add that varves also contain plant materials. They plant fibers, pollen, algae, other organic materials that can be dated.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
And varves align with other like sediment and ice core analyses for dating. And some varves, like discoveries with varves, have approximately 200,000 layers. So like that was the argument that I gave to David McQueen. How is it that we had 200,000 layers of varves?
You atheists, you just keep talking and talking and talking. But how is it that there's sea creature fossils on the top of mountains if there weren't no flood?
Oh yeah, that's always a common one that's brought up. Which, you know, they don't like the concepts of uplift and like geologic processes that could possibly create mountains. I mean, they think that that's just so unreasonable. But we have extensive research that indicates that's actually true. We know that that's the case, and it aligns with plate tectonics. And
I mean, even negating that fact, like just thinking about it logically, how would a flood deposit this mountain structure and then also carve it in such a way that it resembled a peak? Like, floods don't do that. Even a global flood wouldn't do that. Like, how is it depositing and eroding these sediments at the same time in just this coincidental fashion?
And then the corners, like the places in the Grand Canyon where it doesn't flow in a straight line, those round corners,
almost like it was carved by a river.
Yeah. So I'm posting 3 papers by Updike and Wilkinson that I found in just a few minutes. 1990, 1990, or 1989, and 1993. I think this is the 93 one is right here. Carbonate mineral saturation state and cratonic limestone accumulation. So I will post those in our chat.
I think, well, I'll just bring up something funny when I brought up some of these contradictions geologically with a global flood. I think it was one person in chat, and it was clear he had no response to this, but basically I brought up these aeolian deposits, basically from wind-blown sediments rather than these water depositional environments. How I was asking him, how do you explain this via global flood if, according to a global flood, all these sediments were deposited underwater? And it was clear that he had no response to that, and basically kind of conflated what I was saying with the idea that all sediments were therefore deposited by wind. And of course, that's not what I was saying. Yeah, that was an interesting conversation that I had one time.
Oh, duration in thousands of years, kilo years down here.
I actually have a presentation and a set of publications, and I have it in a Google Drive and have a link to it. Maybe I posted it in the private chat, but I'm fine sharing it with everybody. I don't care.
Sure.
I could put it in the
Public?
Yeah, I'll put it
Hey,
in the public chat.
Hey, Speed, why does everybody always come to your chat to fight?
My what?
I said, why does everybody always come to your live chat to fight?
Are they fighting? Those kids, behave out there. Don't make me stop this fucking car.
Yeah, we don't want to
Come
turn the
back
stream
there.
around. By the way,
Yeah.
I found Midnight. He's over on Jay's Patrick's live stream.
Yeah, I posted it. Yeah, so folks in the chat, I posted a link to the presentation I did on Standing for Truth's channel that talks about all these subjects, and it has a folder with publications list. So
Okay, cool.
Very cool.
So real quick real quick, while we're on the subject of geology, I don't know if you've also heard of this, Jason, but it seems to be kind of working its way around, or at least seems to me to be working its way around the creationist community on YouTube nowadays. Do you know anything about these mud flume experiments that they've been doing to try and show how stratification can occur rapidly, which we kind of already knew could happen?
Using mud? They use mud and say that proves all
Yeah,
these
you remember
other
the
rocks and
flume
minerals.
experiments we were talking about a few times the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to remember hearing something about this, like on Answers in Genesis.
Yeah, it's older than that. It goes back into the 1990s, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean,
but it seems to be just circling its way around recently due to some video George Bond posted one time.
I mean, I think that this gets to this topic of soft deformation. Yeah. Like the argument that we can say that everything that we're seeing could only have been formed through so-called soft deformation. And so as an example, like one of the refutations to that is that how would these unique and differing layers in the Grand Canyon, I forget, like the Tapete Sandstone and the I forget what the other one is, Khabib, we have these layers which are known to be completely different, completely different formations, and chemically and structurally are laid on top of one another. Like, how is it that soft deformation could have resulted in those formations, even though they are they were lithified, and we know that through looking at the sedimentary structures, things like mud cracks or other fossil analysis that are through what so-called sedimentary structures, we can see those in the layers that can only be formed after through lithification. Right. How is it that those would have formed through soft deformation? There's no answer to that. We can't. I don't see how that would even be possible. Lots of people have talked about that. So I just think the soft deformation argument, it's easy to make that on a very, very, very basic level. But when you dig down into it, you start to run into these impossibilities that really just don't make any sense. So I'm sure there are experiments in mud flumes where you can get layers, excuse me, but I just don't think it's reflective of what we see in the rock record.
So this is one of my favorites here, is the formation of banded gneisses. Basically, by deformation, it has to be a very slow, high temperature, high pressure deformation, and it actually can bend the crystals so that you can see the deformation. So if it was soft mud and there were crystals in it, the crystals would not bend with the mud. Right. If you put diamonds inside of a bunch of clay and then bent it, you're not going to bend the diamonds. But they see that in gneisses, so that it becomes these banded crystals. And it is probably a really good example of what cannot form during a flood. Right.
Well, another one is probably these granite, for starters. How do you get granite in a global flood when it needs, as far as I can tell, long periods of time to slowly cool off, so you get these large crystals in the rock matrix to begin with.
So they make claims about rapid formation of granite, And when was that ever done in a laboratory with, and obtaining large crystals? I mean, does that?
Are they just making this up all of a sudden?
I don't know, because I haven't been able to find any laboratory experiments of making granite.
Oh well, that's a red flag there.
This is the classic Bob Gentry argumentation from like the 80s and 90s. The guy that came up with so-called polonium halos.
Radio halos.
Yeah, if you can look that up. Like it's been refuted extensively, even though the paper was published. I think the paper was published in Nature, so it's a highly a high impact journal on like so-called polonium halos. But there has been a lot of research in this area around whether that's what that is that actually showing what he's actually suggesting. That these were that it indicates rapid formation of granite. That has been refuted extensively in like a number of papers after that, which is the beauty of science. It's like when somebody comes out with a paper that proposes a controversial topic, then everybody goes after it and tries to replicate it. And if it will stand up to the tests of scientific scrutiny, guess what? Then we have something of a potential like change in a paradigm, which I'm totally fine for. Folks can say, look, granite formed rapidly. We should be able to reproduce it. There should be other scientists that provide research in those areas. I'm totally fine with that.
Well, I'm just curious because if granite formed rapidly, how would it be able to intrude for all these younger sediments, or sorry, older sediments, and like, why would it have all these eroded surfaces on it?
That's an excellent point. That's an argument. That's exactly right, Andrew.
The other thing about granites is, have you looked at the variety of granites, right? Yeah. I mean, the difference in crystal size and, grain and color and all of that supposedly formed from what, mud?
Because I'm saying, like, we know what happens when an igneous rock cools really quickly, like what would happen in a flood. You get these glassy textures. You don't get this nice crystalline structure that you see in granite.
Right.
That's right. And we see, and it's so amazing from a geologist standpoint, like looking at granites and the beauty of what we see with granites, and the different sizes and textures of crystals are all based on different temperatures and pressure. Yeah. Like you vary the temperature and pressure and you get that.
Completely different rocks. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the difference in sedimentary rocks that I'm looking at and looking at under my microscope, I mean, they're all so widely varying.
Yeah.
To believe that they were all formed in this one year.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like this particular rock here, when I put it under the microscope, there's a fine little line of crystals that basically got like leaked down into that. Oh, you got one too. There's a granite. Yeah, nice.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I want to put that under my microscope.
Oh, should we say nice?
Nice. Yeah.
Spell it a different way.
Yeah, I remember cutting this in graduate school, and I got totally yelled at because like I cut this on a diamond saw. I had a big piece of granite. I cut this thing, and I didn't clean up the way I should. And then like an email went out to the department. It was like, somebody left a huge mess in the diamond saw. We don't know who did it, but you better clean up your mess. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That was me.
So I hope that answers your question, John, about why the Earth can't be 6,000 years old, geologically speaking.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
millions of reasons.
And I don't want, I thank you, and I thank Speed too for allowing you guys to do that. Because isn't Speed the one that usually throws a tantrum whenever you talk about geology?
Oh, I thought that was physics.
No. I love geology. It's physics. Physics.
Oh, okay. It's physics. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's only
I
because I
appreciate you letting me rant about geology lately, Speed. I like the subject recently.
No, I love talking about geology, and in fact, that's going to be my next big field in 10 years.
I mean, and the beauty of all these systems is that even like from Darwin's perspective, like geology was a tremendous influence to Darwin, and
Yep.
that the intersection between geological systems and biological systems fit together. And this is why, like, the evolutionary theories that were proposed match up with what we see geologically. And so we start to see not only sub-disciplines within a field align, we start to see disciplines set completely separate
Right.
disciplines start to corroborate one another. That is the beauty of like these theories, because they are supported.
That's how you know you got a good scientific theory, basically.
That's right. That's correct. That's correct. And this is the negative. Last thing I'll say. This is the negative to like the creationist, intelligent design concepts, is that they just cannot withstand that level of model analysis and comparison across disciplines. It just falls apart.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done. No, I'm done. Go for it.
All right. So look, I just wanted to say, and of course, this is Answers in Atheism, and I think it's very interesting what they're talking about in the chat, and I thought we might toss around if Speed is amenable, because Ox and Serb are going back and forth about the definition of atheism, and if it's nothing, and if it's nothing more than a definition that allows everybody as one, like, and I don't.
We don't need no stinking definition. Like people basically identify as an atheist, right? And I'm pretty sure that everybody means something just slightly different from everybody else, right? And so it doesn't matter if you're agnostic and you're calling yourself, like most agnostics that call themselves atheists lean strongly toward, hey, I don't have any evidence for this shit. So basically, I don't
it's the same thing with any theistic religion, for that matter.
Right.
I mean, here's the thing: is like I don't understand what caught my eye is he's Serb is saying. Asking Ox, you don't see an issue defining atheism in such a way it's no longer useful category because everyone is in it. Well, I don't think Ox or anybody else is suggesting that we, define atheism such that everyone is in it, because of course there's, people that believe in God would not be in the category.
Well, see, that's the first X-Men movie. Make everybody a mutant and then it's problem solved. So yeah, this will make everybody an atheist. No, I don't remember where I was going with that. Sorry, John, I was just trying to be silly.
Resident Evil. Right. Mutants, Resident Evil.
Resident Evil has a new series on Netflix that's actually pretty good so far.
Yep, it actually is. And
so real quick, I'm sorry. I was just want to finish what I was saying that I forgot. Is that the thing is when it comes to atheism and atheism and agnosticism and all that Steve shit that he went on for years and years about that there's
McCrae.
Yeah, right. Like there's supposed to be some specific definition. That's not the way words work. Okay, so and that's why when you're talking to different people, you can avoid a lot of misery by defining terms in the beginning. And different groups of people use the same word in different fashions and mean different things, and there's still an overall meaning that everybody mostly can understand.
Yeah, when you define things in the beginning, frequently you get so tired after that discussion that you don't have any time for discussing what you originally wanted to talk about.
I agree with all that, but I'm only asking that question because he defined atheism as the knowing that there is no nothing.
Knowing that there is no nothing?
Yeah, so go ahead. Yeah, what at that? That's the exact reaction I had.
Well, and just real quick before we move on, I just want to point out, if maybe other people saw it, there was on the debate channel with James, I forget what it's called.
Modern Day Debate.
Modern Day Debate. There was a debate between Darth Dawkins and somebody else, And I swear to you, I'm not exaggerating. The debate never happened because they talked for 90 minutes about defining terms.
Right. Yeah. That's what I mean.
You're supposed to do that before the debate. That's supposed to be part of the prep.
Yeah. That can be a problem.
Yep. That
So-
can be a problem.
I always call myself a hard atheist to basically make it clear that I have a strong belief that there are no gods. So
I just call myself a lapsed reformed druid. In other words,
Yeah. There you go.
I kind of liked trees and would, I'll still hug a tree but I don't believe it anymore. So,
Yeah.
so I'm a lapsed reformed druid.
I still hug trees. Except for buckthorn. Oh, this morning when I went out and sat on my perch in the valley, all of a sudden
My perch.
I
in
see
the
something
valley.
moving, and it's a fucking coyote running right under my chair. And I
My goodness. Oh my
and
goodness.
I didn't have my gun.
Hey,
Oh.
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go over to Rage's stream. Sorry
What?
to be.
Rage has a stream because I thought
Are
Jay
you
had a
kidding?
Are
stream.
you baiting me? Are you baiting me, Jason?
What the fuck, Jason?
Baiting you? What? What?
Okay,
Can I go over there?
you're trading me for Rage? Are you fucking kidding?
Look,
boot this son of a bitch.
This is all
Scott.
like this is an echo chamber, man. I want to
Boot
go over
him.
some. I want some. Praise I am is over there. I want to go over like to.
Oh,
I
you
need,
want
some,
some
enough.
pushback?
I need
Gotcha.
some pushback. So
Okay,
Anyways.
got you.
See you, Jason.
Get the
All
fuck
right.
out of here,
Sorry, we
man.
bored you to death.
Yeah, we should end anyway.
Yeah, I kind of
What
want to go
is that?
see
What
Jason
he
take
said,
on praise.
you went to your what in the valley and there was a coyote?
I have a little perch.
Perch.
Where that's
perch
why
in the valley.
Yeah, that's why
that
my
sounds
arm. That's why my arm is all ripped up because I go to my perch and I look down and I see buckthorn and I go down there and chop it away and I can see further into the belly. So I'm looking down about 35 feet and a fucking coyote runs down there, down my trail, the trail that I fucking made. A coyote used it, and
Well,
it's
I'm
like,
sure he appreciates or she appreciates that you.
yeah,
cleared the
well,
trail
he's
for
really gonna
Wasn't-
appreciate that
Wasn't that-
subsonic 22 that I have loaded up in the back.
wasn't that like a Jim Neighbors song?
What?
it. There will be peace in the valley.
My perch in the valley.
Yeah.
Perch in the valley, yeah, something like that. Anyway, yeah, I go sit out there about 5 times a day. In fact, that's why I end streams, because I hunger for just going and sitting on my chair and staring in the woods. So
Right.
I
So,
just stare off into
Steve,
space.
oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
Well, yeah, you took a breath, and I thought you were gone. I'm sorry. But I shouldn't jump in so fast because you're in your early 70s.
Takes me a while to breathe.
You take breaths.
Yeah, see, you want to tell me about calling 911 yesterday when I pocket dialed you?
Oh, I forgot all about that. That's
Like-
not what I was going to say. But yeah, so all right, so I'm sitting here in my living room. It's the time of day that I was like completely stoned off my ass, and all of a sudden my phone rings, and I hear like this woman's voice. Like I'm thinking there's a couple ladies having a conversation. It's Mike. It's on my screen. It says it's Speed calling me, and I'm going Speed. Hey, what's up? And then I also think I can hear him breathing a little bit in the background, and I'm thinking, holy fuck, did this guy just dial me because he's like having a fucking stroke or something?
Yeah, like I'd call you, John. Like
Well,
you're
right,
the
right, that's-
yeah.
Well, right, that's what wasn't computing in my head. Like that, like okay, why would he dial my number if he's? But like I said, I heard this like I don't know whether it was like a fan or something. It sounded like I don't know.
Probably a fan.
But so I was just looking up online what his area code, what area it was, and was going to call 911 thinking he was in distress. And then he finally realized he had dialed me and picked the phone up. And
Yeah, I'm sitting there trying to watch a video and I keep hearing speed, and I'm like, fuck, am I imagining that? Am I like speed? And it's like it was really his weak little voice because the phone was sitting off to the left of me. I'm like, fuck, it's John. Yeah, don't call 911, okay, please.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't need ambulances showing up out here. It's just gonna upset me.
Well, I would have told
I'd probably have a stroke.
If I had ended up calling 911, I mean, I would have let them know up front that you got guns.
Well, wouldn't it be fucking funny if you dialed 911 and the ambulance showed up? What'd you say?
I said, well, if I had called 911, I would have let them know. I would have let them know that you have guns.
Oh yeah, right. And then they would have come in. They would have come in shooting on top of it, right?
Because that would have been so helpful. That would have been the most helpful.
Right, and wouldn't it be funny if the ambulance just showing up gave me a stroke, or the police shot me, basically? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot of problematic possibilities in that.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and then if you think about causality, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we could have made a loop there where.
When the police show up, I always scream, "I'm white! I'm white!"
Oh God!
Don't shoot! I'm white. The police around here, you got to do that. You got to let them know you're white, otherwise they'll shoot you. I'm telling you, they shot another guy the other day. Now he was white, I think, but anyway. So they had him in standoff for like 6 hours, and they were negotiating with him with their parents, and then they decided to take him out with a sniper. After 6 hours, it's like, and the parents were like, "Couldn't you wait another 6 hours, maybe, and let us try to talk him down?" But no, they didn't do that. They shot him. Last person you want to call is the fucking police if you're in trouble around here.
Right.
Anyway, we should end it.
So, but I wanted to ask you though too, apropos of nothing and totally just some fucking bullshit, but. So your cats, right? Like,
yeah.
What are some of the crazy things that you do or say to your cats when you anthropomorphize them? Is that the word?
Oh yeah. God, let me think.
Because here's the thing: I don't know why this is, but I've recently started walking around my house when I'm here and talking to my cat in the voice of Gilbert Gottfried, and he just like keeps looking at me like, "What the fuck?
What the fuck?"
You know, I'm just saying crazy things. You know.
Yeah, every now and then, like if you start talking in a weird voice to your cats or making noises, it's really fun to watch their faces because they're like, "What the fuck is wrong with him?" It's pretty cool. Yeah, I do talk to my cats more than I should. I have complete conversations with them. Anyway, so we're gonna.
we're gonna end. Oh, you want to just keep ending it, huh?
I want to end it. Yeah, I kind of want to end it. But first of all, I kind of want to say one more thing about fitness and traits and stuff like that. And the whole concept of fitness is a What is going on? Yeah, it's mathematical. It's numbers. It's basically numbers, statistics. It's modeling. It has nothing to do with hearts going thump thump or traits. You fucking weenie.
Yeah, and there's one thing I'd like to say about fitness is always make time for a leg day. All right, no, don't neglect. Don't neglect the legs.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Don't neglect your legs.
Legs are important. You'll look awfully lopsided if you're just all arms and chest.
Yeah. So all you traders go to Rage's stream or Gur streams or something.
And always eat weenies.
We're ending it.
Well, they're doing an analysis of Praise's response to Leo.
Oh.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, because Praise did a big thing on Leo. Oh, cool. Okay, that's worth watching. So okay.
I just real quick wanted to thank Jason for what he said before. He was acknowledging that even if you don't have a degree in the field, you can be an expert. It just involves like a lot of work and stuff like that.
It involves a lot of work.
Yep. So I appreciate him saying that because a lot of people would just automatically hand wave away. But he's allowing for the possibility that a person without a degree can offer something more. So I think that's cool. But yeah, this whole argument from consensus thing, I left that alone in my debate with Jordan for the most part. But because I woke up this morning to like 1 billion people using it all at once, I'm going to make a video about it in a couple of days.
Okay, I gotta go. I got a call. I gotta go. We're
Fine,
ending
Chad.
it. Okay.